Hello and welcome to the Knit Shift. I don't know what episode it is. It's been a while since I recorded and I've already put Gracie to sleep, so hopefully I don't put you to sleep today. Today is January 1st, 2016, and I am so glad to be back recording. So it's episode 38. I am back after a long hiatus. I recorded some episodes in advance, not about knitting, but put them up, and you guys seem to like them, so I apologize that there was no knitting content, but it was unavoidable with all the travel I did in December. But I'm so glad to be home. I'm so glad to be back recording. I really felt out of sorts not recording for so long. That was the longest break I've taken since I started. I had only ever taken a week off before. But I'm thrilled to be back. I have a lot to talk about. I hope you had a wonderful New Year, and if you celebrated Christmas, I hope that that was wonderful too. I had a very low-key New Year's Eve. Josh, my boyfriend, is out of town right now, skiing in Vermont, and he's on his way back today. So it's been me and Gracie for a few days, and I was in bed by 11:30, and I was asleep by 11:30, and if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen me post about Gracie not feeling well lately. I'm hopeful she's on the mend. It started the day after Christmas, and if you forgive me, this is kind of a tangent. It started the day after Christmas, and she woke up and was really shaky and panting and really clingy, and she always sticks to my side, which you can probably tell if you watch this podcast for any length of time. Case in point, here she is, snoozing beside me. But she was extra clingy and whiny and wouldn't really settle. So we took her to the vet Saturday morning, and we got in, it was the day after Christmas. We got there right before they opened without an appointment, and we were able to be seen, which was great. And they took some blood, and of course, when some dogs go to the vet, they get kind of hepped up and crazy. And so she didn't really act sick while she was there, of course. So we got the blood work back Monday, and when I got the blood work, instead of just calling, I went in to get the results of the blood work, and I brought the dog, and we were seen by a vet again because she was up like Saturday night, the night after she woke up and was out of sorts. We were up for the day at 2 a.m. She's been waking us up every 2 hours. Well, she wouldn't even settle down at first, she was just up pacing and crying, and we were up for the day Sunday at 2 a.m. So we took her to the vet again Monday because it had been another rough night. So they did a urinalysis, and she has crystals in her urine, which from my understanding happens when the mineral balance gets out of whack, like the pH is totally off. So there's a lot of, the vet didn't go into too many details when he gave me that information over the phone on Tuesday when I got the results back, but there's a lot of types of crystals. But I've talked to a lot of people who say if you change the dog's diet, that can often nip them in the bud, and they go on and they're fine. So I just want to make sure I take care of it and not let it get out of hand where it could be a really serious problem with her kidney or bladder or whatnot. So I switched to a different food, a more urinary tract friendly food, and I'm sorry, this is a lot of information. And bit by bit, she's been acting more normal. I kind of kept a log of when she woke me up overnight, and it was just about every 2 hours regularly, but last night I slept from 11:30 to about 4:45, which was the longest stretch of time I've had in a week. So I've wanted to record, but Gracie got sick, and I'm kind of caught up on sleep, but not really. I'm getting much less sleep at night right now than I normally do. So anyway, I'm cautiously optimistic she's on the mend. So fingers crossed. And thank you to everyone who left very nice comments on my Instagram account as I gave updates about her health. So that's been the latest excitement. If you watched, I think it was episode 35, I talked about the fact that I had several trips coming up. I went to Texas for 2 nights, and that was December 9th through the 11th, and then I got back and I worked a day, and then I went to Richmond on my weekend. Sorry, that's the dryer going. I guess I could have turned it off before I started recording. Anyway, I was in Richmond for a night, just on a brief little trip with Josh. And I got back from Richmond on Monday, and then on Thursday, Josh and I left for Pennsylvania. We went to Penn State to see my brother get his master's degree. And I got home the following Sunday. So in the span of like 12 days, I took those 3 trips. So it was really nuts. We put our Christmas tree up before we left on the very first trip, and I'm glad we did, because there's no way we would have had time to do it otherwise. So I'll talk about the trips later, and overall they were really great, but something really crappy happened on one of them, but I'll get to that. So first up, let's get to the knitting. I have one finished object, and it's not one I have with me today because it was a Christmas gift for my dad. I will, if all goes well, I'll post a photo here. I knit him socks out of 2 types of opal sock yarn, and I have the leftovers here. This is the Opal Best Friends line, and this is the color Blutsbruder. So I have a decent amount left because my dad has really big feet. He wears a men's size 13, and you know, I have a decent amount left because I used this opal. This is just a plain opal gray sock yarn. I use this for the cuffs, heels, and toes. So I just thought they looked perfect together. So there you have it. I will probably save this gray for, I don't know, it's a little scratchy. It's not the best for like a neck, something on the neck, but it could be the edging on a shawl, or maybe I'll just keep using it for heels and toes. We'll see. So if all goes well, I will insert a photo of that sock here. I'm drinking my tea today out of, this was a gift I got for Josh last year. Pancakes make people happy, because he prefers pancakes over waffles. Oh, that's really good. I'm drinking chai tea from my local tea shop, and it's so delicious. So, I do not have my Christmas socks were not finished. And I will talk about that why more later on when I talk about my trips. This is the awful thing that I referred to. So, and I have one work in progress to show you today. This is something I've been working on off and on for ages, but I just haven't shown you for one reason or another. I have to confess, so the way I do my podcast is I put it on YouTube, and I also have to upload it to my domain so that it's able to go on iTunes. And my anniversary, I started this podcast in March, but I later upgraded it to a bigger storage, but even that storage space is not enough. So between now and February, I have to keep these podcasts kind of succinct if possible, which is going to be hard because I have a lot to talk about. So I'm going to try and keep this brief and just talk about this one project today, mostly because I forgot to bring the other thing I'm working on. So this is a pie shawl by, this is an Elizabeth Zimmerman recipe. I don't know if you'd even call it a pattern. Gosh, it looks big. This is from her book, Knitter's Almanac, which I don't have with me right now, but it's a book by Elizabeth Zimmerman, who is kind of a name in knitting, as most people know. And this is her pie shawl with concentric circles. So every 6 rows I do eyelets. And I won't get into it, it's a book, so I don't feel comfortable giving away the pattern or explaining the pattern in great detail, but it's based on the mathematical theory or the number pi, so 3.14, and how it relates to circles. So I just got to the point where I doubled stitches, so I have almost 600 stitches on this right now. So now the rows are going to take really long. Before they took maybe 10-15 minutes. So I'm knitting this out of Madeline Tosh Prairie, which is a single ply wool lace weight, and this is the charcoal colorway. It focuses. It's a lovely dusty gray. It's really soft. It's a little fuzzy here, you can see, because it's been riding around in my bag for a little while. So I have 2 more skeins of this, so I really want to make this shawl enormous. I don't know if you heard that, but that was the buzzer again. That's the final buzzer, I promise. And I am carrying this project around in a Dealey bag, high in fiber, low in calories. Picked this up at Knitting Addiction in the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So that is it for my work in progress. I'm knitting that on a size 2, which I believe is a 2.75 millimeter. I had told myself I really wanted to get to that marker of doubling the number of stitches before midnight last night, and I did, with about an hour and a half to spare, so yes. Let me pause for some more tea. Oh, that's scrumptious. I could drink that. I'm almost out, and I have an order coming from David's Tea very soon, and I've never tried David's Tea, and I didn't buy any chai, but I kind of might need to go out to my tea shop and buy more chai tea if I can't live without it. It's so good. So with that said, let's move on to I'm going to skip stash enhancement because it's going to be part of this upcoming part where I talk about my trips. So let's talk about the trips I took. I flew into Dallas in early December with Josh. We visited some of his family there, and we had a really nice time. The weather was really warm. It was in the 70s, almost 80 degrees most of the time, and if you've been watching the news in the past week, you will have seen that Dallas had some crazy tornadoes, and I think about 25 people died, which is really, really awful. His family's fine. But we were there at a good time, basically. The weather was really nice. And we were more in the Fort Worth area than Dallas. We were south of Fort Worth near Arlington, and we stayed in a town called Mansfield. And it was just really nice. You know, he and his family had some stuff to do. And we didn't do a lot of sightseeing. I took the car when he and his family had some stuff to do. I took the rental car and I went into Fort Worth to go to Mad Tosh Crafts, which is the flagship store for Madeline Tosh yarn. And it's a tremendous store. It's huge. It's very brightly lit, and they have every Madeline Tosh line that I know of, and then they had some that I didn't even know existed. They had, you know, BFL sock, which I have never seen. They had pardon me. They had, I want to say, like a merino cashmere nylon sock blend, which I had never seen. And I bought a skein of the BFL, and I bought a skein of the merino cashmere nylon. And if all goes to plan, I'm going to insert a clip here of the of my stash enhancement, which I filmed in Texas. So I thought I would share my bit of stash enhancement with you guys while I'm in Texas. It's about 75 degrees out. I am in the yard of someone I'm visiting, and I paid a visit to Mad Tosh Crafts today, which I'll tell you about in my next episode, which you're watching right now. So I bought a few things. First thing is a skein of Mad Tosh BFL sock in the colorway The Mind Creative. It's a cream background with speckles of neon green, highlighter green, pink, purple. It's just really, really pretty. And this is going to be for a giveaway on the podcast, so stay tuned for that. Really like that. I'd never seen the BFL base before. It's 420 yards, 100% BFL. Sorry, I'm holding yarn in one hand and my phone in the other, so it's a little tricky. As long as I don't give you any Blair Witch style stuff where it's like just this, I'll try not to do that. Another skein of Mad Tosh that I found and really liked was an MCN fingering, which I'd never seen from them before. And this is the colorway Geode. This color is coming through pretty nicely. It's purpley brown, and I have to say the price was really reasonable considering it's MCN. I think being at the store, the flagship store, helps in that regard. And this is 80-10-10 merino cashmere nylon, 405 yards of fingering weight. So there you have it. That's really pretty. I'm trying not to shake the camera too much, I'm sorry. And they had skein top draw sock, which I had never seen before. So I had to pick up a skein. And this is 85, weirdly it doesn't say what the mix is, 85.5 merino nylon. So there's 10% missing, but I'm guessing it's 10% cashmere because it's very soft. And this is the opaque colorway. It's kind of a blue-gray with brownie bits. It's really, really pretty. And there's this light white sky blue tinge here, so this will probably be a really cozy pair of socks. And then the final thing I got, trying to be smart and think about future projects, which is something I need to do more of when I buy yarn. They also carry Socks That Rock, which is one of my favorite brands of yarn, and I got a skein of Socks That Rock Lightweight in the colorway Jangu, which is a cream with kind of hints of blue-green to it. It's very, very pretty. And there you have it. That's my stash enhancement for this trip. So I highly recommend Mad Tosh Crafts. It was a beautiful, enormous store. I would say 75% of what they carry is Mad Tosh. Maybe a little less. They have a lot of brands of yarn, but they also carry fiber and some fabric and maybe even some spinning wheels. But of their yarn selection, I would say 60 to 70% is Mad Tosh. They have every weight of yarn you can imagine. I didn't see lace, but maybe I missed that corner. Anyway, that's it for stash enhancement, and back to Virginia we go. So, sorry, I took a sip of tea. So we also, Josh and I went into downtown Fort Worth one night, our first night there. And we went to an area called Sundance Square, which had a big Christmas tree and music, and it was very nice. And we kind of went to his old stomping grounds. And there was a bar there called, I almost said Leaky Cauldron, which is the Harry Potter bar. I can't think of the name now. Flying Saucer. That's the name of it. Sorry, it's been almost, I guess, almost a month since I went, so I guess my memory's a little rusty. But I have a business card here for Mad Tosh Crafts, and I will link to their website in the show notes. Let me pull I have a stack of goodies to show you guys. So here's the Mad Tosh Crafts card, and there's the info. And another really good place we went, we had some time to kill when our plane got there. We got there early, shockingly. We had a direct flight, which was great because it was such a short visit. We flew out Wednesday morning and we got home Friday night. So we found a donut shop called in Grand Prairie called Glazed, and they had really good donuts, and they had I don't even know what they were, but they had these rolls that were stuffed with jalapenos, cheese, and ham and egg, and they were so delicious. We had really good food in Texas the whole time. And our last morning there, we found this cafe for breakfast, and I had really good huevos rancheros, and oh my goodness, they were amazing. So we ended up going to this Glazed place twice. It was really, really good. The plain glazed donut was amazing, but they had all sorts of stuff, so highly recommend it. Let me set these aside. What else about Texas? Oh, so we also, on our last day there, Josh took me into Dallas to, we were talking about going to, I think it's called the Reunion Tower, which is it's kind of like the Space Needle in Seattle. It's a tall landmark. You can take the elevator to the top and look at the city. But as it turns out, I really wanted to see Dealey Plaza, where JFK was shot. I had never been to Texas before this trip, and I was really, just really interested in going and seeing it. So on our way to Reunion Tower, I said, oh, if we just turn a few streets here, we can kind of drive through Dealey Plaza, and I can at least see it from the car. And then it turns out that there was like parking right there for like $5, you know, and so I said, you know what, let's just stop and park and have a look around. So It's still open to traffic. There's grassy areas that you can walk around and explore, but the road that he was driving on, or he was riding on in the limousine, is still open to traffic. And it was very surreal. It was probably my favorite part of the trip, even more than the yarn store, shockingly. It was just very surreal to be in this place that I recognized from so many movies and TV, and it's so famous. So they have little plaques everywhere talking about, like, here's where Abraham Zapruder stood when he made the film. He had the only full film of the shooting. Here's the grassy knoll. They have rather morbidly X's painted on the road where the shots were fired, where they hit the president. And they only have 2 X's. They have where the first shot was, and then the third and fatal shot. So, and we ended up going to the 6th floor museum, which is at the book depository where Lee Harvey Oswald was holed up. And that was fascinating. We only had about an hour. I wish we could have had more time there because I really wanted to read everything more closely. Come on up, Gracie. No, you cannot come on my lap right now. Okay, stretch out over my lap. Okay. She always knows when I'm filming. So, hi, yes, I love you. Yes, you are not driving me nuts. You're making me worried about you lately. Yeah. So she is acting more normal, which is really nice to see. She's much less whiny, but I'm still taking her OUTSIDE pretty regularly. I can't say the words. Thank you for licking my knee. It needs to be cleaned. I did not get out of the shower 10 minutes ago. I know. Anyway, I'm sorry. The 6th floor museum was fascinating. You cannot get into the window where Lee Harvey Oswald was shooting out of. Gracie, please stop. Come on. Scoot. You cannot get in that window, but they have glass walls surrounding that corner, and they have the boxes, like it was a book depository back in the day, and they still have the boxes, or I'm sure replica boxes, set up the way he had them set up to kind of hide when he had hit the gun and was set up in the window to shoot. So that was very fascinating. I had goosebumps. It was almost 80 degrees up, but I had goosebumps walking around outside and then standing, 5 feet from where he fired those shots. And you are able to go up on the 7th floor. There's an ancillary exhibit of photographs up there. And it's a big, wide open space. It's not, like the museum. It's the museum you kind of walk through the path of various parts of the exhibit and takes you through the timeline and conspiracy theories. And on the 7th floor, you are able to go and stand in that window directly above where Lee Harvey Oswald was. So you're just 1 floor up from where he was, set up in the window. And that was very eerie, too, because you can look down and just kind of see exactly the view he had. So I highly recommend it. It wasn't cheap. I think it was almost $20 a person, but it was well worth it. And if I ever go back to Dallas, I would go back again and make sure I carve out like the afternoon because it needs more time. So that was my trip to Texas. Pause for some tea. This is a lot of talking. I have been working since I got back from my last trip. I've worked through the holidays. I had Christmas off, but I am working later today. So this is a lot of talking for me right now. Okay, so next up is my trip to Richmond. This is something that Josh and I had planned way back in March, right around the time I started this podcast, but I got really sick with a weird type of food poisoning and ended up in the hospital, so we had to cancel our plans. So we rescheduled it for this weekend in December. I think it was December 13th. That we stayed overnight there, and we stayed at a really nice hotel called the Jefferson, which is a really old landmark hotel in downtown Richmond. And we had a package to go. The hotel room price included 2 tickets to see the Rodin exhibit at the Virginia Museum of Fine Arts, and it's a really nice museum. We had been there before for a Picasso exhibit that came to town, and the Rodin exhibit was very nice. I won't talk too much in detail about it, but it was a lot about how he used, pardon me, he used these molds and would reuse and repurpose things a lot. So, and this might be naive of me, but I didn't realize there were he made so many versions of the Thinker or the Kiss. There were multiple versions and multiple sizes. So they had all of the famous ones, like the two I just mentioned. They had these beautiful hands that were in the very first room of the exhibit, and I was so struck with them, I took a photo of them, and if I have my act together, I will add it here. Let me make a note of that to do that. Add photo. I keep my show notes on my phone, so I can edit them at my will. So we went to the exhibit Sunday morning before we checked into the hotel, and the hotel was decorated beautifully for Christmas. They had a beautiful Christmas tree and lights and wreaths everywhere. It was very, very magical. And I kind of hope we can go back someday because I really enjoyed it. And the room was wonderful. Really, 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 really nice. It's not the kind of place I could stay normally, but for a very rare treat, it was very, very nice. So after the Rodin exhibit, we walked over to a pizza place nearby. And after we ate, we went to a coffee shop. Josh is a very big coffee drinker. So we sit down, we are drinking, I'm having like a chai tea or something, and I see this poster on the wall for a concert. And I recognize the name on it as someone who has played in support of the musician Tom Waits, who is perhaps my favorite musician of all time. And I don't know if I've ever showed this on the podcast, but there's a piece of art over my shoulder right here. It's a piece of art about Tom Waits, and my coworker Sam, who is a designer at the paper, he creates art from found objects, and he has created this piece of art that looks like Tom Waits. And let me try and turn the camera around, hold it up to show you. So he finds objects and he goes to salvage yards, scrap yards. It could be in a gutter somewhere, frankly, and it's just really cool. The arm is clearly a bent fork, and the cigarette that he's holding is a piece of chalk. And the other arm, the crooked elbow, that is something from a PBR can, I believe. But anyway, it's just, I love it so much, and Josh got it for me as I apologize for the shaky camera work. Josh got it for me as a gift. He knew that I really thought it was beautiful, and he surprised me with it, and it's my favorite thing in the world. I love it so much. So, tangent. This musician's name on the poster is Marc Ribot, and he is someone who has supported Tom Waits. He plays guitar, kind of a Cuban jazz guitarist, and he has played with Tom Waits since the 1980s, and as recently, at least as an album he made in 2004, so he's played with him for a long time. And so I look at the poster, and I see that the concert date is Sunday, December 13th. And I'm like, oh, that's today. And I look at the clock, or I look at the time on the poster, and it says 4 or 5 p.m. 5 p.m. probably. And at this point, it's like 2 p.m. or 1 o'clock or something like that. And I was like, Josh was getting the coffee, and I didn't want to like flail, but I was like, oh my God, I wonder if we can go see him. So I get on my phone and I tell Josh about it and kind of play it cool. And he's like, well, we have to go. You love Tom Waits. We have to go. This is a guy that plays with Tom Waits. So the website was not working on my phone. So we just decided we would get there at the time the doors opened And it wasn't so much a concert as it was this really odd little thing. There was this old theater in Richmond, showing a Charlie Chaplin movie, The Kid, and Mark Ribot would be providing a live performance of a score. He would play music along to the silent movie. And it was a fundraiser for, I think, a local film group. So it was just this weird, quirky little thing. So we went about our day. We went to a brewery called the Isley Brewing Company, and it was very quiet. They had massive Jenga, and we played big Jenga as we drank our beer. And, we went to the hotel. Did we go to the hotel? No, I think we just stayed out at the brewery and took an Uber over to the theater. And I was the first in line to buy tickets, and a line formed behind me. And I kept worrying, are people going to know? Like, is this going to get sold out? Because this guy's kind of a name. It was not sold out. I mean, there were probably 120 people there, maybe. It was a lot of parents and kids to see the movie. I think a lot of people were there for the movie, not as much for the performance, for who was performing. But we got tickets, and it was really enjoyable. It was really, really nice. The movie is only about an hour and 10 minutes, but it was just the perfect kind of thing to do on a weekend when we were taking this little trip and we didn't have much to do. And it was just really nice. It was just a weird little perfect way to spend the afternoon. And we went and we had a nice dinner that night. And driving back to Norfolk on Monday, we stopped in Colonial Williamsburg, which I've been to once before. I have a friend who worked as an architectural historian there, and she showed me around and explained a lot of cool stuff to me. It was the best way to explore Williamsburg. So you don't need a ticket to just walk on Duke of Gloucester Street. You can just walk up and down. You can't go into every single building without a ticket, but you can go into some of the shops. So I bought some soaps at one of the shops, and it was like almost, again, 75 degrees, decorated for Christmas, and they had an ice skating rink set up in downtown, the more modern part, which was just very surreal. I don't know how people were skating in 75 degree weather, but the ice looked like it had a very thin sheen of water on top. So that was really nice. And that was our trip to Richmond. And what else? So our trip to Pennsylvania. So we drove to Pennsylvania, and herein lies the tragedy of our story. I think I'm gonna knit while I talk. So Josh did the driving, and we were north of Washington, D.C. We were off of the Beltway. We were on, I think, Interstate 270, in between Rockville, Maryland, and Frederick. So we stopped. I found a place to eat on Yelp, and I think it was raining. It was raining. So with about 15 minutes left in the car, I put away my knitting, just kind of set it by my feet, and, paid attention because I was navigating on my phone. So we get to the restaurant, and it was a kind of a Peruvian chicken restaurant. It was delicious. It was called Pica, and I think if I remember, I'll put a link to it in the show notes. So we had lunch, and, we get in the car, we go across the street to a Starbucks. Very important part of any road trip is caffeine. I combine caffeine and coffee into caffee. And I realize I can't find my knitting project, my Christmas socks. And I can't find the bag. I mean, I had zipped them up in their bag, and I cannot find the bag. It was a little polar bear square bag from Nomadic Yarns. So I don't think I went back into the Starbucks. We drive back to the restaurant across the way. We look in the parking lot. I retrace my steps into the restaurant. I ask the people sitting in the booth where we were sitting if they could check on the floor. No dice. We go back to the Starbucks parking lot. no dice. So we have no choice but to keep driving. It just disappeared. I don't know what happened. It could have fallen out of my car and then someone picked it up, like when we got to the chicken restaurant. So I left my phone number at the restaurant. I called the Starbucks once we hit the road, like later on. And I'm very sad about, I mean, I was very sad. I was just mystified more than anything. Like, how does a whole project disappear? I've had that happen once before with a sock I was knitting. But called the Starbucks, called the hardware store next to the chicken restaurant in case someone, because we were parked in front of the hardware store, not the restaurant. So I thought maybe someone would turn it into the hardware store. No dice. So my Christmas socks, that beautiful Gershubi Fiber Arts, pinkish, reddish, green sock yarn, and the bag it was in are no more. So that just meant I had to cast on my extra sock yarn that I brought with me, because I never travel without extra yarn. This, God forbid, this is the kind of time when you need that extra yarn. So I knit on my pie shawl a lot. In fact, that's how I was able to get as far as I have. Knit on my pie shawl and started a new pair of socks. 2 new pairs of socks, actually, which I will have for you to show next time. So we get to State College, and we had the first night there on our own. Before my family wasn't getting there. This was Thursday night. My family got there Friday. So I went to Penn State. I graduated 10 years ago, and this is only my second time back since I graduated. We came for a wedding in 2008. So it's been 7 years. So it was really nice to walk around and look at campus and see all the changes, and I was able to see a knitting friend who is a professor there in the French department. She was able to meet Josh, which was nice, and I hadn't seen her since Maryland Sheep and Wool, which was great. So that was really fun. We went to eat at Mad Mex, which was my favorite place to get margaritas in college. I can't drink them like I did in college anymore. Not in my system. Not these days. So I had one margarita and it was delicious. And the whole weekend was just really nice. We took my parents around. We went to the Creamery, which is the on-campus. There's a food science program at Penn State, and food science students work there and make the ice cream and make the cheese. And, Penn State is a big agricultural school, so they use, the animals that are right there. My brother got his master's degree through the World Campus program, which is like a way to take classes online, and he has been doing it while balancing his duties in his civilian job, and he's in the Army, Army National Guard, so we're very proud of him. He has a very impressive master's degree, and we went to the graduation and had a really nice dinner. And we went to the Lion Shrine, which is the big statue on Penn State's campus, and took photos. And yeah, it was just a really, really nice weekend. I don't think I have anything else to show you from my State College weekend. Yeah. So the only other thing I wanted to talk to you about today was Christmas gifts. I got no yarn for Christmas, which is fine. I have so much yarn. But I got some plenty of yarn-related things. So before my mom knew about my missing project, she crocheted me a project bag. How cool is this? And it has a drawstring, so I can keep it closed. And she did this lovely I-cord handle, and she lined it with this fun little fabric with apples and grapes on it. So, fortuitous timing, Mom. Thank you so much. I haven't used it yet, but I'm going to very soon. But I love this yarn. I have no idea what yarn it is, but she crocheted the bag and then made a knitted I-cord handle. So, kudos, Mom. This is very, very fun. So, I know one more thing I wanted to show you guys. When we were in Richmond, we went to this really fun shop called Mongrel, which is a gift shop, and they have so many cool things. And I got this really fun alpaca card, alpaca wearing a scarf, and he's ready to knit some more maybe he's ready to knit another scarf. I don't know. And those slippers look pretty cozy. So, and the thing on the back says close knit. So I might put this in a frame and put it on my yarn cabinet. We'll see. So in terms of other Christmas gifts, Josh got me a drying rack, which I have needed desperately for some time. I wear my socks enough that I usually wash my knitted socks every week and a half. Usually because I don't want to put on the floor, like I spread out towels on the floor, and I don't want to spread out more than, 10 pairs at a time. That's all that will fit, or there will be no way to walk in our office. So he got me a drying rack, which was wonderful. And the final thing is my dad made these really cool yarn holders and gave me one to give away on the podcast. So they cut down some trees or cut down some branches in my parents' yard, and he made some yarn holders, like so you can have a cake of yarn and sit it on the counter beside you. So yeah, he sanded them down, and little dog hair on it. He sanded them down, and you can just, it doesn't rotate or anything, but you can just use it to hold yarn cake, and it's just a fun little thing. So I think I'm going to give one of these away for the holiday sock knit along in the Ravelry group, which I'm going to draw the winner next week. So pretty cool, right? So I have one, and someone else will get one. So thanks, Dad. That was very cool. My dad he's always been so, he just knows his stuff. He's so handy. He and my granddad built a deck on our house when I was young. He just really knows his stuff. He's great. So yeah, it was just a really nice time with my family. We did Christmas gifts in the hotel room, and it was just really nice. Really lucky, really nice few weeks. I just feel really lucky to have gone on the trips that I did this month, and just in general, this 2015 was a really wonderful year. I got to take several knitting related trips. I spent a weekend with friends over President's Day weekend knitting at one of their parents' house, at a house of one friend's parents. I went to Maryland Sheep and Wool, and I got to go to SAF with my knitty friends here. So I feel like I've gotten to do so many fun things this year. And of course, I started the podcast. Perhaps that's the biggest thing of all. So, thank you for watching. I'm going to talk next episode. I will talk about my knitting, what I knit in 2015 and what I hope to do in 2016. I'm not a huge resolution type person, but yeah, I think I always like to have some knitting goals set up. So I'll talk about those next week. But anyway, thank you so much for watching. If all goes to plan, I will add some clips from video I took from my trip. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!